Do you want to lower your scores by 5 strokes? Yeah, sure, we all do. I bet you even know what you should do in order to do that the fastest. Practice your putting. 42% or something like that of all strokes on the golf course are putts. So why wouldn't we go do that more often? Because, well, it's not that exciting. It's not that much fun, necessarily, even though it's the easiest thing you can do. I can sit here in my office, I can go to my bedroom, I can go to my living room, I can go to my backyard. You can putt just about anywhere, yet so few of us actually work on that part of our game. If you are serious about lowering your scores and serious about working on your putting and practicing that, one of the best things you can do is get a putting mat. To have a dedicated place in your home where all you have to do is go pick up your putter and start rolling putts. As you might guess, not all putting mats are created equal. Some are big, some are small, some are cheap, some are expensive, some are authentic green-like experiences, some are not, some have alignment lines and training aids. So trying to figure out which one is best for your needs can be a little bit tricky, and that's what we're doing in today's video. I have tested 6 of the most popular putting mats on the market, and I'm gonna share with you which ones are worth buying, which ones are maybe not, and who each one of these is the right fit for. And so if you're looking to improve your putting, if you're looking to practice more at home, keep watching. I think you're gonna love today's video. So real quick, before I go into today's video, let's just cover some of the basics. What should you be looking for when it comes to a putting mat? Well, the first thing you should really figure out is what's your budget. Are you looking to spend like 50 bucks? Or are you willing to spend a little bit more money to get something that's going to be more authentic or better for your practice? So set your budget, figure out what you want to spend, and then we can dial in recommendations from there. Another thing to consider is how realistic do you want your putting mat to be? Are you looking for the absolute most realistic green-like turf possible? Or are you cool with the glorified carpet that's just going to allow you to practice on a more regular basis? Or are you trying to find something in between? If you want that realistic experience, expect to spend a little bit more money, but if all you're looking for is a way to practice and you don't really necessarily care about that realistic feel, then there's lots of options out there. The next most important thing to consider is size. How much space do you have for this thing? Are you looking for something big? Or are you looking for something small? Is it something you're planning to leave up permanently, or are you gonna put it away at the end of every use? Depending on your answers, different mats are gonna suit you better, and that's one of the things we're gonna cover as I go through these 6 recommendations. And finally, the last thing is some extra features. Aside from just some grass and a hole, what else are you looking for? Are you looking for brake pads to simulate breaking putts? Are you looking for alignment lines? Are you looking for a backstop? Are you looking for a ball return? Different mats are going to have different features, and sometimes more features isn't necessarily a good thing. We're going to talk about that in the video, but think about some of the things that are important to you and some of the things you're looking for in a mat. And the last thing I want to say before we jump into our recommendations is I reviewed 6 of the most popular ones on the market. I have not reviewed everything, so this is not fully comprehensive. A couple of the ones that stick out I haven't had a chance to try yet are the putt-out mats and the birdie ball mats, which I've heard great things about. So take all that with a grain of salt and continue to do your research. But the 6 that I have reviewed are some of the most popular out there. They cover a wide variety of different price points and experiences, so one of these is probably going to be the right fit for you. But I just wanted to point out there that there's a lot of products out there, and I'm only one person, so there's only so much I can do. That said, if you're watching this later on, click the link below. I will link to the written review, which I update every single time I update a new putting mat. So if you're watching this 6 months after I published it and you want to go see if I have updated recommendations, check the link below and you can go see them there. All right, let's just jump right into this with the most realistic putting mat, and that is the Prime Putt mat. Compared to every other mat I tested, this one blew everything else away in terms of a realistic putting experience. So the one I have is 3 feet by 12 feet, which is pretty big. A lot of people aren't going to have that much space, but the Prime Putt mat does come in smaller sizes as well. I will say though that being 3 feet wide, it allows you to actually stand on the mat, which gives you a more realistic experience. And pretty much every other product I'm going to talk about is more or less glorified carpet. Some is better than others, some's more realistic than others, but this is the only one where the nylon synthetic turf that they use, I know that they specifically researched it. There was all sorts of technology that went into trying to create the most lifelike turf possible. And honestly, it shows. The ball rolls true, and when you roll the mat out, it's a thick and heavy mat, which helps it to lay completely flat right from the get-go. It comes with a branded wooden backstop, which adds to the kind of elegant feel. This is probably the best looking of all of the mats I tested because it is more minimalist in nature. You don't have crazy alignment lines, you don't have a ball return to deal with, so it doesn't have some of the features of other mats, but if you were just looking for the most authentic, most realistic experience and something that's gonna look pretty good in your home, this is the mat for you. That said, there are downsides. For some people, not having brake pads, not having a ball return, those are going to be deal breakers. This is also an expensive mat. The one I have, being 3x12, is $499, which is many multiples over most of the other devices that we're going to talk about in this video. So while you can get smaller models, which I think start at around $300 just over, it's still going to be one of your most expensive options. The only other thing I will say about this is, compared to some of the other mats, it does feel just slightly slower. Like, I would say it feels like it's probably a 10.5 on the Stimpmeter, which, let's face it, that's what most of us are going to be putting on a regular basis. And along with that, the one thing that doesn't quite seem as realistic with this mat is, as you putt the ball, you can almost hear this like skittering sound as the ball is going across the nylon blades of grass. That sound just doesn't quite feel realistic. The ball rolls super true, it rolls flat. Because of the way the grass is, it's not like a 13 on a Stimpmeter, it's not like you're rolling it across hardwood floors, so that feels accurate and true, but that sound always just felt a little bit off to me. That being said, this is still the most realistic mat I have tested. If you are looking for a very high quality, very realistic, very elegant mat, I would definitely check out the Prime Putt. All right, next on our list is the most fun putting mat, or it could also get the award for most high tech, and that is Putter. This thing is awesome. This is one of the coolest new products I have reviewed in a very long time. Essentially, it's a big metal box. You set it down, you roll out the mat, you set up the ball return, you plug it in, you connect your phone or iPad to Bluetooth, and then you have your own putting simulator, essentially, that has over 24 built-in games, built-in practice modes. There is so much you can do with this. Putter is like the ultimate party golf mat, or the golf mat for people that hate practicing. So a few of the different modes that are built in. You can play horse. There are 27 different spots on the mat. You can pick which one of those spots you want to hit from. You're playing with a friend. If you make it, they've got to make it too, otherwise they get a letter. You can play beer pong. You can practice all the putts from 3 feet, from 4 feet, all the way on back. You can climb the ladder, where you hit from 3 feet and 4 feet and 5 feet until you miss, and then you go all the way back again. You can play with your friends online. There's high score leaderboards. This is the most fun way to practice your putting. Now, this thing doesn't come cheap. It's $599, and overall, the mat itself is certainly not as realistic as the Prime Putt we just talked about, but it is definitely better than some of the other more carpet-based mats that I have tested. I'll have a dedicated review on Putter soon, but honestly, in over a decade of reviewing products, this is one of the coolest golf tech products I have ever used. It makes me excited to practice. It makes me excited to have people over to play games. It just actually is getting me putting more, which is pretty cool. There are a couple downsides to Putter. For instance, when you're putting on the right-hand side near the ball return, it can feel a little unnatural putting to the hole from that angle. And the incline going up to the hole doesn't feel quite as realistic as a putting mat that fully lies flat. But if you're tech-oriented, you can get over some of those hiccups and you don't mind the high price tag, Putter is definitely a putting mat to consider. All right, we talked about the two most expensive options on our list. Let's go to the cheaper side. What is the best cheap putting mat? Well, the one I have used for over a decade is the Skills Accelerator Pro. And let's be honest, this thing is nothing fancy. You can pick it up for 50 or 60 bucks on Amazon. The plastic construction feels very cheap. The carpet is razor thin. And so if you're just looking for a really cheap putting mat, just something to get you practicing more, something you can put in your office or your basement and has the convenience of a ball return, then the Skills Accelerator Pro is great. But compared to any of the other ones on this list, the quality isn't great, the carpet isn't great. Don't expect a super high quality product, but over the last 10 years, this is a product I've put dozens of hours into, so it can certainly get the job done. All right, next on our list, we have the best putting mat for practicing breaks, and that is the Big Moss series of golf mats. So one of the downsides of a putting mat is you're pretty much just practicing straight putts. And even though that's what most of us need, it can get a little bit boring. You want to try and mix things up a little bit. And there are two different mats that I'm going to talk about in this video that come with brake pads. So basically, these are pads that you slip under the mat, so it's going to simulate a real break on a golf course. And Big Moss is the one that actually does a pretty good job with it. Big Moss mats come in all sorts of configurations and sizes, so no matter what you're looking for or how much room you have, there's probably going to be a good fit for you. And compared to other products that use brake pads, these ones actually felt pretty high quality, and I was actually able to create relatively realistic breaks. Of course, anytime you're putting these pads in on an at-home putting mat, especially one that's not super expensive, it's not necessarily going to lead to a super realistic experience, which is kind of the case here, but it was definitely usable. I will say I would stay away from the Big Moss if you're looking for something that's very easy to take apart and very easy to set back up. So there's a lot that I like about the Big Moss putting green, but it comes with a lot of stuff. And depending on how you feel about that, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. We have a chippy mat. We have little white things to put under the hole. We have brake pads to add brake. We have little hole fillers. We have a flag. We have a backstop. So if you want something that you want to easily take away, put out, not have to deal with a bunch of stuff, this probably isn't the one for you. That being said, if you've got a playroom or a basement or someplace where you can set it up and leave it up, then this is definitely one of my favorite mats for the price. Okay, on this one, we're gonna call this the best practice aid, and this is one you've probably seen if you've done any research on putting mats, and that is the Perfect Practice Mat. It's endorsed by Dustin Johnson, so that may make you want it, or may immediately make you not want it. Now, I actually liked this more than I expected to, but there are definitely some pros and cons. So first off, this one is more narrow than most of the other mats I've used. It's only about 1.5 feet wide, if that. And after using some of the other ones that were 3 feet wide, I really do enjoy the extra space. On the Perfect Practice Putty Mat itself, they also have like printed on grass that just looks super fake and super cheap. And they paired that with like a mahogany wood construction for the ball return. So it's like they're trying to be fancy, but then they have this graphic on the mat that looks anything but. So that's kind of weird to me, but I will say from a practice standpoint, the ball return works as advertised, and having 2 different size holes is really nice. So if you putt for 5 or 10 minutes on the smaller one and then move over to the bigger one, it actually does its job and inspires more confidence and makes the hole feel bigger. Despite the fact I hate the graphic on the mat itself, the alignment lines are actually very nice. Of all the mats we tested, this one has the best and most useful alignment lines, and it even comes with a separate alignment mirror to help you really dial in your alignment. So while looks-wise it feels a little weird, I actually found myself really finding it useful for practicing, and the fact this is one of the smaller mats also makes it one of the easiest ones to set up and put away if you don't have a permanent place for it. And finally, the last one on our list is probably the one I would recommend the least, but there is a certain person it might be a good fit for, and that is if you are looking for a big mat on a budget price, and that's the Callaway Odyssey Putty Mat. So my version of this is the same size as my Prime Putt mat. It's 3 feet wide by 12 feet long. And having that big of a mat just allows for a lot of versatility, allows you to practice longer putts. It allows you to stand on the mat, which is really kind of nice. The downside of this mat though is the turf quality is the worst of all the ones I tested next to the Skills Accelerator Pro. The foam on the bottom that elevates the holes just feels really cheap. There's no backstop, which is kind of annoying, especially as the hole kind of starts to fade away from you on the back, so it's almost like pushing the balls away from you. There's also no alignment lines or ball return on this one, so you're not getting many of the features aside from just being a bigger mat. But even on those smaller ones, the turf quality is the same, which is to say it's not all that great. So consider this one if you need a big mat and you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on it, but otherwise I would probably check out one of the other ones in this list. So there you have it. Of all of the putting mats that I have tested, those are the ones I would consider. If you were looking for the absolute best of the best, most realistic mat you can get, I would check out the Prime Putt mat. If you hate practicing and you want something that's going to be fun for you and your friends and family, I would check out the putter mat. And if you're on more of a budget and you're looking for something more feature heavy, then I'd consider a couple of the other mats on the list. With that, my name's Sean Ogle. I'm the founder of this thing here, Breaking 80, where we talk about cool golf products and cool golf courses. If you got some value out of this, maybe consider hitting subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment, let me know if you have questions on any of these or any other mats. I know there are a lot of other mats out there that I have not reviewed, so if there's one specifically that you would like me to review, drop a comment, let me know. I'll update my blog post, and later this year, if I test enough new mats, I will do an updated version of this video. With that, I thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an excellent day, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace.